apologies from Councillor Muskan, who's on holiday, and Councillor Naheed, whose daughter is going to have a baby, so she's going to be a grandma, so she's down south. Item 2, minutes of previous meeting, are they correct record? Thank you. Any interest? Thank you. Admission of the public. We've got the press here. Tony, welcome. Just to let members know that we've got item 14, 15 and 16. They're in private. So after item 13, we'll have to depart your company, Tony, I'm afraid. Okay. Item 5, deputation petitions. Have we got any? No. Public question time. We've got no members of the public. Member question time. Councillor Erin Hill. Erin, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. I know Councillor Kendrick is aware of a case recently where a human trafficking survivor and her son were moved into Kirklees by G4S with 3 days' notice to the family and no communication with this council. Despite lobbying from their local MP, the local authority and the school, this little boy was not able to finish his school term before the family were evicted, and they were left here with little food, no money or phone credit and no support system. What is your view on this practice, and are you aware of any other instances of this happening in Kirklees?
Councillor Dave Kendrick.
Thank you, Chair. I do view this practice as abhorrent, an abhorrent practice of G4S. Vulnerable people, vulnerable families being moved about with little or no notice and put in strange areas, breaking whatever simple links they've managed to establish with communities and with schools is not the way to support victims. It doesn't reflect the principles set out in the government's human trafficking strategy, which makes a commitment to improving victim care arrangements and to provide support to help them rebuild their lives. And for the council not to be informed that someone has been moved into the area, particularly where children are involved, is outrageous and increases the challenges these families face. I'm only aware of one other historic case. However, I'm aware it's not uncommon practice to move families around at short notice like this and not to tell local authorities. And because of those facts, I'm exceedingly worried by this practice.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. You got a supplementary, Councillor Hill?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Thanks for that. And as you said, the thing that worried me most was the lack of communication. I think having to move a family may be one thing, but not to tell the local authority that they're coming in, and for us, therefore, to be catching up in putting any support in place is really worrying. In your view, do we have the necessary resources available as a council to adequately support these families? And how has the government's austerity agenda impacted that?
Okay, thank you. Where families have no recourse to public funds, we have to end up linking them to local charities to provide support. However, continuing austerity means a lot of our funding to voluntary organisations has reduced, and of course that becomes more and more of a challenge. When eventually we're aware of a family needing school places, we have to try and find places in the local area, and of course school budgets are also under increasing pressure, and that can be a challenge. In this particular case that you're talking about, if it hadn't been for an MP in another authority who knew the family contacting an MP in our area, we would have been completely unaware about what had happened, and we would, you know, one wonders how much this mother and her child would have coped, particularly when her English was very, very limited. I note that G4S hasn't retained the future contract for Yorkshire and Humberside, and that Mears Company has been awarded it. And I also note that a spokesperson for that Mears Company, it says they expect to achieve £1 billion profit from the contract. And I feel that the whole issue is a case of profits over people, and I don't think vulnerable people can be a commodity and viewed in this way. We do try to do the best we can in Kirklees, and we have written to the Home Office about this recent case. But, you know, if we don't know people who are vulnerable and susceptible to all sorts of risk are placed in our area, it becomes always a game of catch-up, and I am extremely worried about it.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Just on a side, Councillor Hill, you may be interested that we had a report on this at the Yorkshire leaders a couple of weeks ago. There's been a lot of data that's been collected, and all the leaders in Yorkshire have actually raised concerns that the current contract, the way it's been actually procured, does not actually meet that service quality and service delivery that you're talking about, in the past, we've actually delivered this contract ourselves before the government changed the rules. So one of the things that we're trying to do is lobby across the piece government to actually allow local authorities to take control of that contract again, because we know our communities. And on a final point, the way the migration allocation is, as Councillor Graham Turner knows this, we used to have regular meetings with the Home Office, that we actually take an unfair allocation of families in already stretched and deprived communities, and we are doing our bit, and we should be proud of doing that, but there needs to be allocation across the country so that you don't actually create sort of like, you know, pockets of further deprivation. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. Councillor Bolt, have you got a question?
Yep, maybe a couple of them. I'd like to thank you for sending a written reply. I put a written question in the council last week, which unfortunately we didn't get time for, which was about the value that yourself and your colleagues share for standing and regular groups that the council has with user groups. And for the benefit of the webcast and your colleagues, it was a very short reply, that yes, you do value the role of these groups. They allow us to deliver outcomes for our residents, as we can listen to them, work with them by harnessing the groups when they come together, which I was very pleased to hear. Do you share my concern, therefore, that the Public Rights of Way Forum, which, and certainly I know, David, you've attended in the past, has not met since February 2018?
Thank you, Councillor Bolt. I am aware of the PROW Forum. I used to get regular minutes and regular updates from them. I will get you a proper response, because I don't want to speculate either way, but I'll get your response. And thanks for raising that, Martin. Another one more, yes?
Thank you. At the petition debate last week, we were told about the role that the Halal Monitoring Committee plays in assisting. Could I just be clear, that's the Halal Monitoring Committee from Leicestershire, is it?
Councillor Ahmed, do you want to take that?
In terms of the Halal Monitoring Committee, I'm not too sure if it's the Leicester one or the Yorkshire one, because there's one that actually works with all 5 authorities as well, but I can definitely double check for you. But I know it's the Halal Monitoring Committee that deals with it, but I'm not too sure actually which one of them, because there are, as you know, there are a number of them throughout the UK. Councillor Bolt.
Is that okay, Councillor Bolt?
Yep. And to assist, yes, because having heard about it at council, I was interested to learn more if it's helping us, because the Halal Monitoring Committee Limited, based in Leicester, has 2 local directors, one from Dewsbury and one from Batley. But I was quite surprised, looking on Companies House, to find that it hadn't filed accounts since March 2011, hadn't filed an annual return since September 2011, and was going through a compulsory liquidation petition commenced in March 2012, and was due to be dissolved, I think, last year. So if you could also check that if this is, I wasn't aware that there was one in Yorkshire, but if the Halal Monitoring Committee, which has 2 Yorkshire directors, which is based in Leicester, then I would suggest that due diligence, that we check and see what's been going on for the last 8 years with this company, if we've been dealing with it, particularly if we've been paying any money for it to carry out monitoring for us, and to ensure that those people who do receive halal meat, it's properly then monitored, and not by a company whose financial practices, to say the least, leave something to be desired, but we hope that the rest of it doesn't.
Thanks, Martin. In terms of the the details about due diligence, I can't really comment, but I will look into that. But in terms of the halal meat debate, I think, for the record, it needs to be very, very clear. There are two committees. One is called the Halal Food Authority, which has not been used as setting the standard for halal meals, halal meat, because the risk of contamination and the risk of it not being classed as halal is great, and that was done through a consultation process, a very detailed consultation process. The HMC standard that we apply is the one that's accepted, and there is a lot of misinformation around that. I just wanted to get that record very straight, but we will get back in terms of the diligence questions you've asked. Thank you, Councillor Bolt. Okay, members, shall we move on? Item 8, Kirklees Economic Strategy. Councillor Peter McBride.
Thank you, Chair. I can totally recommend this strategy. It represents what we've been doing for the last at least 7 years and what we aspire to achieve in the near future. It highlights our priorities, the main factors we believe will drive the economy and the well-being of the population. It refers very specifically to skills and a strategy therein, support for key sectors of industry, which will include particularly manufacture, digital media industries, our strategy for transportation and connectivity, the focus we've put on our main towns and centres, and in all working in partnership with stakeholders and others with interests to develop the overall strategy. What exactly we're doing is spelt out in the document. It gives a timescale and methods by which it might be we can assess whether or not it's successful. It demonstrates linkage to our other social values and priorities, to health, housing, and our support of vulnerable people. It's not just a vision or a wish list. It exemplifies our initiatives, current and future, which will match our objectives. It gives examples of the areas and amounts of council investment, what we might reasonably gain by investment from city, region and national funding, what might be complemented from the private sector, and refers also to the support for social enterprise and what might be achieved through, for example, procurement. Some of the further detailed initiatives are also within the agenda today, and we'll be referring in a moment to the Dewsbury Town Centre strategic development, which is an integral part of the total strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to second that. This item will be going to full council, so I don't want to say too many things, but I'd like to move that recommendation. Are we okay to move it? Thank you, members. Item 9... well, sorry, if you want to ask... Sorry, Martin.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it'll come as no surprise to colleagues that I'm interested in priority 4, advanced connectivity and infrastructure. And particularly a point that's, I'm pleased to see that it's a Kirklees Cabinet priority, improved station services from Mirfield and Ravensthorpe via station remodelling. Could you expand on that and say what the station remodelling, particularly for Mirfield, will be? Because, again, as colleagues will know, it's a station which has got no step-free access, split platform. There's only ticket facilities on one, and I pity the passengers who are waiting currently because it's like waiting for Scott of the Antarctic sometimes when you stood on the island platform being blown. So I'd be pleased to see what the Cabinet priority and ambition are for improving the station services in Mirfield and Ravensthorpe.
What we intend for the Transpennine upgrade, which you in fact are referring to, will be dependent entirely on what Network Rail invests. What we gather so far is they intend major investments in Huddersfield Station, Dewsbury Station, other stations, and probably a new station at Ravensthorpe, which will inevitably affect Mirfield. This is what we learned so far. We're expecting a major announcement in the next few weeks. We did expected last November, 15th to be exact, and the Secretary of State couldn't make such a statement, although he'd paused previously and is obviously pausing again. We're expecting that announcement very soon. We're hearing strong hints coming from Transport for the North and from the private providers, but I'm just telling you what I know so to date.
Supplementary, Martin.
Well, yeah, just to carry on from that then, because, and it gives you a chance to have a look if you wish before it goes to Council, because the introduction to that on page 46 says what we will deliver. That's a definitive statement. Not what we hope to deliver or what we may deliver. And what you're saying now is this is an aspiration rather than a strategy promise.
No, it's not saying that. It's giving the public information insofar as we have it, what we know will be invested by others, particularly Network Rail. Obviously, investments in railways are critically dependent on national investment. What we are saying in the strategy further is that we will invest and support on the back of this our own resources. For example, we have a major strategy for investment in both Dewsbury Station and in Huddersfield Station, as I say, on the back of the upgrade of Transpennine.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Are we all okay to approve that? It'll come from Council anyway. Okay, thank you, members. Item 9, Dewsbury Town Centre Strategic Development Framework and Delivery Programme. Peter McBride, Councillor.
The Dewsbury Town Centre Strategic Development Framework is obviously an extension and more detailed illustration of the economic strategy. We believe it will be transformational for the area. There's an investment in the station, in Pioneer House, the Learning Quarter and the market, a huge investment over a period of the next 5 years. Some of it is already undergoing. Pioneer House is almost completed. The Learning Quarter has been in, the building has been in operation for at least 6 months, I think, 9 months. So this will be the major features. There'll be also some immediate interventions, which will be to improve the look of the area, improvement to street furniture, to pavements. There'll be some replacement of street furniture and in addition improved lighting and introduction of green features such as trees and bushes. So there's like a short-term and a long-term strategy, which you can see, you will see very soon in their implementational stage.
Cathy, do you want to second it?
Yeah, I'd like to second this, and can I just welcome this news for Dewsbury over a 3-year period on this investment. But also, obviously, we're dealing with the cosmetics of the town centre and about getting factors right for people to appreciate Dewsbury and want to be part of Dewsbury growing. But equally, it's about a partnership. We can't do everything on our own. But to that end, I'm asking that we speak with the police, because we can do as much as we want to improve Dewsbury, but it's also that perception of crime, so it's tackling that and getting resources to support us. So I think people will agree with me. Cosmetically, fantastic, great, but I want people to feel safe and not feel that Dewsbury has got antisocial behaviour and it's a problem that they can't undo. So yes, I'm fully supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Cassie Scott, for the comments. Councillor Masood, do you want to say something?
I mean, I just welcome the report and echo what my colleague said. I mean, I was listening to Radio Leeds driving this morning, and there was obviously people talking about the investment coming to Dewsbury on BBC Radio Leeds and the amount of money, and like Councillor Scott just mentioned about the antisocial behaviour and safety and all that. And I welcome that in the report on page 60, that it'll be more attractive centre. The centre looks at better, brighter, obviously reduces the eyesores, low levels of antisocial behaviour and crime. And also it mentioned about the discussions and the meetings that they've had with the Dewsbury Chamber of Trade and how they welcomed this born and bred Dewsbury lad. I generally do welcome the investment that Dewsbury's having and the stuff that we're getting into Dewsbury at this moment in time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are we all okay to approve that? Councillor Martin Ball. Oh,
yep. We heard last week at council, particularly from cabinet members, that strong views on the climate emergency and how they were wanting, and obviously thought for some time about having environmental impacts and air quality impacts. Given that's something that cabinet has the power to do anyway, when are we going to start seeing these appearing on major reports so that when we see restructuring like this and other things, that we'll see the impact, particularly in terms of air quality. What's the air quality measurement now? What's it going to be after the investment? Obviously it was a key matter, it was brought forward and discussed, and we now need to see those words put into actions, and they should feature on every cabinet report.
This report came out more or less at the same time as the cabinet report, so in terms of this report you won't have it in, but you're right, that motion was passed last week, and what the agreement was to set up all-party working group. Sorry, not all-party, because I think the Conservatives didn't want to be part of the all-party working group. So it's going to be Council Working Party. But Councillor Bolt, if you want to be part of that working group, I can put your name forward, because we do need a cross-party working on that.
Can I add? It may not be specifically referred to, and perhaps it should be, I don't know about it. But we are doing things of great significance. For example, the greening in areas will offset significantly the impact of the emissions that are coming from the roads, and in part also from rail. But I think more importantly is the advanced scoot system, which is being put throughout our key highway network, a critical part of which is Dewsbury and Dewsbury Ring Road, and that by moving the traffic more effectively, more quickly, will reduce the amount of emissions. Probably the most significant thing we can do in terms of climate change of any initiative the Council might make, and it will certainly beneficially affect Dewsbury.
Councillor Bolt, you want to come back in? Supplement? David?
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm glad now Martin's raised that, and I think it's true that this was done before that, but I think it really should have that scrutiny that Martin's talking about. I mean, one thing that always strikes me is that we still let buses drive through the middle of the town. When there's a bus station within the ring road, yet we have buses driving through the middle of the town. The town is in a bowl which can't be healthy, and I think we ought to really consider all these points. And Martin's right. If someone sat back and looked at it through those spectacles and look at that perspective about pollution, about I think you might get some different. You might start reviewing some things that's just going on and we just accept. And I think it's something that we should be really mindful of anything that's now in process. I know some things are ongoing, but if we can do it quickly, but I think there's nothing to stop us retrospectively looking at what the impacts of these policies are. They haven't been done yet.
Yeah, no, good point, Dave. Councillor Bolt?
Thanks. I'm pleased at the comments because, with respect to planting trees, in terms of air quality and environmental impact assessments, if we look at planting the trees on the Leeds Road Smart Corridor and had an assessment of the effect that they were having on the nitrous oxide, dioxides and things from car emissions, and then have a look at the project which Eric Firth unveiled on the A629 at Saltrable Hill, where they've used the retaining wall for a highway, planted it with basically grow bags and filled it full of moss and things. The absorption from things like that is far greater than full-grown trees, never mind saplings, so we might be able to get better results by less intrusive methods. These have been done in London, in Glasgow and other places. So, let's talk to Tim Swift, Eric Firth and Wicker about what Calderdale have done, because obviously it must have had benefits for there, and you're looking again at what's happening in Dewsbury. where we've got congestion at the two cuttings out of there, if we were able to emulate these living walls, as Eric called it, going up there, that's improving the air quality in the bowl, then we'd be foolish not to do it.
When and the visual impact also is important. And in terms of the initiative you referred to, it's an experiment which I checked out. Newcastle University, who said in terms of its impact and effectiveness, did not wish to comment in terms of whether or not they owned it in terms of its effectiveness. I think it's significant. So let's not carried away with some of these initiatives.
Okay, are we okay with approving that report? Okay. Item 10, capital investment for fire safety in council buildings. Councillor Graham Turner.
Chair, this report seeks Cabinet approval for a £3 million capital investment in fire safety measures up to 20/21. This is £1 million per year and is a mixed investment in such things as new fire doors, new and upgraded fire alarms and protection and stores. Members will note that some works have already been carried out due to the urgency of the work required in light of Grenfell. Chair, I ask Cabinet to approve the capital investment to ensure that we meet our legal and moral obligations in regard to fire safety.
Are we seconding? Thanks, Councillor Shade. Are we okay with that? Okay, member, thank you. Item 12, additional local highways maintenance fund. No, oh, sorry, I'm jumping. So item 11, land at Hart Street, Newsham Road, Huddersfield. Is that again, Councillor Graham?
Chair, thank you. This report seeks Cabinet's approval to dispose of the leasehold of the current leasee, who has secured all outline planning permission on appeal for a residential development. Whilst I recognise the objections of local ward members, permission does exist for the site to bring much needed homes into Kirklees, and I don't see the need for the council to retain the freehold. I firmly believe that house owners should own the freehold to the land where their home is, and it's not our role as a council to deny homeowners that right. This will also bring a small but welcome capital receipt to the council. Chair, I ask Cabinet's approval to disposal and delegate the sale to the relevant director.
Thank you, Councillor Shade, for seconding in that. Are we okay to approve the item, members? Thank you very much. Approved. Item 12, additional local highways maintenance funding. Councillor McBride.
This is normally Councillor Mather's portfolio, but it's our share of the government's pothole fund, which it announced in the budget. It will enable us to deal with. We have 2,000 kilometres of road. The great majority of our funding, in terms of upkeep and maintenance, goes on the A, B, and C roads, our busiest roads, and to a large extent, the rest is significantly neglected. So this fund is welcome because it enables us to deal with the kind of roads that most people see every day. It's the ones outside their houses, which are very low in priority by comparison with the major roads, unless they happen to live on those major roads. So, welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Shade, for seconding that. Are we all okay to agree with that, members? Thank you. Item 13, annual RIPA update. Is that Councillor Graham Turner?
Chair, this is the annual report into the regulation of the Investigative Powers Act 2000. As members will see, this is quite technical and lengthy legal document. Chair, I would just like to point out that we have not used the RIPA in the last year. As members will see from the report, we have to undertake a training programme that will ensure that those we have identified as requiring training. It's important that we get this training completed as soon as possible, as it is identified as a weakness in our last inspection, and we are doing inspection again this summer. After discussion with our legal officers, we agreed that we should employ an external training provider in this instance. We will continue to monitor what training is required and ensure that those who are required to be trained are fully trained. We will also be looking into the issue of social media and how that fits into the RIPA legislation. Chair, I ask Cabinet to approve this new updated RIPA policy.
Councillor Shade.
Can I second? But I've got a question on part of the policy that is stated. I've to turn the thing down. I can't find the page now. All right, it's on page 136. It's page 23 of the policy. It's about the use of covert surveillance, and the times the council will use it. And it lists the offences that will look at covert sales, which alcohol sale to children, all agree with all that. The one thing that's missing, and I don't know why someone as we have actively taken the decision not to use covert surveillance to tackle the problem of fly tipping. Because we have got places where fly tipping is prevalent, and it would be, it's my belief that we should use all methods we can to stamp out fly tipping. And I just wondered whether we should be fully accept this policy, and we've got to update it, but should we be reviewing of whether we're using all the items that we do need for Reaper are allowed, because this is very restrictive of what it allows us to use it for. I mean, I do know that in some areas they've started using, if you come to traffic lights in near town centres and roundabouts, the amount of litter that's been thrown out of car windows at those roundabouts. And I know that there is some intention for the government to try and change legislation to allow people to be prosecuted on the car numbers for things thrown out of car windows. Like at the moment, if it goes through a speeding camera, if you don't say who's done it, you take the fine. There are moves from the government to say that if you throw something out of your window and you don't say who's done it, you take the fine. And I just believe that we ought to be reviewing that section on Appendix 6 on page 136 that allows us to use covert surveillance to tackle fly tipping.
Graham, do you want to respond, Graham?
We do use CCTV for fly tipping surveillance. We used it successfully last year and secured a prosecution of a fly tipper and also 4 fixed penalties. I think the difference is in this, and it's probably a technical description, a legal description. Reaper is about using it covertly, and we tend not to do that with CCTVs because it's a bit difficult to hide them because you need a power line, etc. But we do use CCTV to prosecute fly tipping. Something I will double check with officers.
Sorry, just on that difficulty, we did buy at one stage. We bought some Coca-Cola cans that were totally self-reliant, that had CCTV cameras in them, that allowed us to film on sites by putting the can down and pointing at the thing. So it doesn't necessarily need a power source if we know that the place we're looking at. So we have got methods that we can use, but this, by adopting this policies, means we can't use that.
So if members are minded, what we can ask Councillor Graham Fenner to as part of the recommendation is just go in there and look at what we can do. So we agree the report as it is, but Graham to just go away and look at it. Are we okay with that, members? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, before I move to item 14, I'm going to assume that members have read item 18, 19 and 20, so we don't have to then go into private session later on. So are we okay? We'll just go, okay, thank you, members. So item 14, Dewsbury Townscape Heritage Initiative 9 Marketplace grant application. Is that a Peter McBride?
I move this, Chair. It's an example of the expenditure on the Dewsbury Heritage Initiative, which is a £2 million investment by ourselves, 1.7 million by the 1.7 million from us and 2 million from the Heritage Lottery to improve building. This building is complementary to one that's been recently or is about to be refurbished, which is, I think, the Bull in. Is that correct? It's the Bull, Black Bull.
Councillor Cassie Scott.
Again, just welcome news for Dewsbury that property is going to be brought back into use. People will know that property did suffer severe fire damage. And as you said rightly so, Councillor McBride, the Black Bull has also been supported and coming online. So that corridor around there, it's going to be generating new business, places for people to go and families. So, yet again, I'd like to thank this Cabinet.
Councillor Masood Ahmed.
I'd just like to echo what my colleagues have just said in terms of the Black Bull and the Old Baileys. Old Baileys, that's now becoming Frankie's, and definitely welcome the report. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Are you all agreed to move the item and agree? Okay, item 15, proposal to allocate funding for the Learning and Early Support Strategic Priorities Capital Plan for the provision of new pupil places in Huddersfield North. Is that Councillor Ahmed and Councillor Graham Turner? So who's going to... Right, Councillor Masood, do you want to move that?
Okay. Thank you, Chair. The proposal is to allocate funding from the Learning and Early Support Strategic Priorities Capital Plan for the provision of new pupil places in Huddersfield North. I seek Cabinet approval to allocate capital funds to build a new 420-place primary school. The new school will be built on the playing field at Clare Hill, Edgerton, which will provide a separate key stage 1 and 2 play area will be provided, plus a multi-games area alongside a soft play habit area. We are committed to improving the quality of education in our primary schools to give every child the best possible start and ensuring that all children have access to sufficient high-quality school places. It has been identified that there is a shortfall of school places in the Huddersfield North area, and it is acknowledged that in order to meet the Council's statutory duties, an investment of capital is required to create high-quality new build accommodation that will meet the needs of pupils, staff and local community. The new school represents the final phase of a delivery plan that has created 1,260 additional primary school places for Huddersfield, following on from the excellent facilities provided at Royds Hall Community School 2016 and Beaumont Primary Academy in 2018. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Graham Turner.
Just like to add, Chair, the thanks to the officers, because as we well know and we well experienced, that building new schools in Huddersfield is quite often challenging, and again this has been a challenging site, but the investment must be welcomed, and it's in the right place now. It took, as I say, it did take a little bit of getting there, so I would just like to formally thank officers for the hard work and look forward to yet another new school in Kirklees to deliver the best start in life for our children.
Councillor Cassie Scott.
I'd like to ask a question on this, if you don't mind. There's a couple of things I'd like to say. In 3.2, obviously about the Brambles, it's an academy, and I have been asked the question, why are we funding academies out of our capital? And I'm sure Councillor Turner will have the answer for me. And the other part was, there was a judicial review application by one of the plot holders. Has there been an outcome on that as well?
Councillor Scott, thanks for the question. All new schools automatically become an academy under current government legislation. The last time I spoke to officers about the possibility of a judicial review, we hadn't heard anything, and the time limit for that was fast approaching, so we will wait, but I'm not aware that we're likely, I'm anticipating we won't face a judicial review, to be honest with you. The time scale has nearly run out now.
Thank you, members. Are we all okay to approve that report? Thank you. Item 15. I've done that. Sorry. Yeah. Item 16. Kingsgate Phase 2. Councillor McBride.
This is the second bid on the Property Investment Fund. You may remember some while back, it's about 18 months ago, we created the fund whereby people might bid to get loan support for things which might be have significant impact in town centres. You may remember the earlier one was a housing investment proposal. This one is Kingsgate 2. Kingsgate 2 is a little more modest than the original proposal, but it, I think, could be of significance in terms of transforming Huddersfield. It hopefully will bring a new cinema, new restaurants and other facilities, breathe some life back into that that complex. Given what we've heard about Marks and Spencer and so on, the more life we can help and bring to other parts of the town is critically important. So I can recommend this to you. I think we're not funding this, but we are providing loan facilities together with the bank to ensure the development takes place.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Councillor Graham Turner, do you want to?
Just add, Chair, that this is exactly the reason we set up this investment fund, to fund difficult opportunities to increase the footfall and the resilience of our town centres. As we rightly know, has been well documented, the retail offer in Huddersfield is changing rapidly, as it is across the entire country. We can't be blasé. It's not a Huddersfield problem, it's a national problem. So anything that is likely to increase footfall, create a different offer within that part of the town, must be welcome. And I welcome this report.
I completely agree with what Councillor McBride and Councillor Grahamton have said. This property investment fund that's been developed to help local businesses flourish in our towns and villages is the way forward, and completely agree with this report moving forward. Are we okay with that? Thank you, members. Councillor Martin Bolt.
Yeah, thanks. I was interested to hear that and to hear members' comments. Obviously, the investment, as Graham said, or Peter said, other parts of the town. Has there been an assessment looked at the impact? We saw the comments in the papers about the loss of Marks and Spencers, and there are other empty units available. So as well as trying to attract people, we're also going to be diverting them. So what's going to happen to the areas? Because can Huddersfield sustain the new development and the current New Street and other developments? Or are we going to see the shopping move down towards Kingsgate, Southgate and that area down there, in which case, you know, we need to be having a look at the impact it will have on areas in the north of the town. And can you tell me how much of the 25 mil is left for other areas to bid at, please?
The answer to the last part is about £7 or £8 million. I think that's the case. With regard to the impact on the rest of the town, that is currently under assessment by ACOM, which is a consultancy company looking at the master plan, which will be rolled out in a few weeks, and you will see how this initiative and a host of other initiatives will relate to each other, and hopefully will provide the basis, a blueprint for the future of the town. Clearly, the balance of significance in the town changes over a period of time. I've seen this movement, different parts of the town, over a 50-year period. So there will be some change, but at the same time, what we're trying to do is support the viable elements of the town centre. And I think in retail terms, not all of it will be viable for shopping. What we do want is that which is retained to be of a high quality and attractive to the public at large.
Supplementary, Martin.
You don't have to, no. Well, no, it's when Peter gives you little nuggets like that, like there's a blueprint and another master plan coming forward in the future. So we therefore have to presume that this loan, this funding, is complementary to that, and it's either based on local knowledge or insider trading to make sure it's complementary.
This is the last item, right? Yeah, and I just want to say one or two things. Firstly, the master plan will be here in a few weeks. It's imminent. It's just getting checked out. So that'll be here. That'll be really good news in terms of actually putting some meat on the bones in terms of a plan to move forward. The other point is, and this is a fact of life, online retailers don't have the added burden of actually what high streets do in terms of overhead and all the rest of it. So I think this rests back on national policy drive and legislation to actually put something back in terms of business rates. It's not a level playing field. That's why we're seeing 100 Marks and Spencer stores close up and down the country. So it's not just about Huddersfield, it's also about other towns and cities up and down the country. And I think the message is very clear that, you know, we will do whatever we can in terms of trying to put loans forward to help businesses. But I think national government and national policy drivers need to actually take this seriously as well, otherwise we're not going to crack it. And, you know, we see big sheds like Amazon just dropping up. And when you look at the balance sheet, they're not paying any taxes. So there's big issues, and the only way we can tackle this is actually national government to actually start looking at big policy changes. Anyway, members, that's the end of today's cabinet meeting. Do we agree with that report? Okay, thank you very much. See you next time.